video games. And my mom would always be out working until very late. So no one would be home cooking until my sister started picking up how to cook, and she started cooking for me. And I didn't notice how ungrateful I was because I just realized I just finished playing games, go downstairs, there's food on the table, I eat it, I go back upstairs, play more games. But after the retreat and reading that training, I realized that there's a lot to appreciate in what my family does for me. And so I started spending a lot less time on my computer, and my friends over the weekends, they'd always say that I'd die and then I'd resurrect from the dead just for school because I'd never be online for anything. I'd spend most of my time meditating, walking meditation. I think it's my favorite type of meditation because it's just really relaxing and just walking around the neighborhood, and it helps me get to just clear my mind a bit, or maybe sometimes like reflect on myself. And so yeah, I tried my best not to use technology while I can. And so those 4 trainings I've worked, in my opinion, I've done really well in practicing on. True love, the 3rd mindfulness training. So all you adults out there probably think I'm too young to know anything about it, and that I'm still a kid, I don't know much, but even this kid could tell when you feel something special for someone. So I know well enough to all the lust, how that's not true love, and the sexual desires and all that sexual energy towards someone, that's not true love. And so, okay, corny story time is, I promise I'll try not to be that dramatic, but so yeah, I met this girl. Well, I've known her for a while, and it's like one of those girls or like person you meet where you never expect that you'd feel so strongly about them, and then once you do, you become really attached. But it wasn't really a bad thing because instead of using that emotion to corrupt myself and drown myself in just going after her, I used that love, that true love, and turned it into things that would help me in life. So I made her my motivation to become better at things I were doing. I'd start focusing more in school. We started studying together, and she made me feel like a nicer person too. So I started becoming a lot more nicer to the people around me. And she had a really positive impact on my life. But then, things go bad when you're a teenager. We're not that knowledgeable. We're pretty dumb. So things went bad, and then I ended up doing really bad in that true love training, and in link with that, I let my depression take over me for up until 2 weeks ago, probably. I spent most of the night staying up really late, just thinking about her and stuff, and I'd go to school really upset. I wouldn't be able to focus on anything. And you'd ask yourself, like, why am I upset over a girl? And that was one of the answers I tried looking for, but I couldn't find. So it really sucked to have to feel really upset and depressed all the time for such a long duration of time. But I had friends and family around me to help. And once I heard about this retreat here and how Sister D was going to be here and how my other brothers and sisters were coming as well, I was really excited to come here. So 2 weeks before today, I ended up trying to recollect everything and trying to become what my original goal was to be, is to become a better person, trying to enlighten myself. So I wouldn't say I gave up on her or true love or anything, but it's a practice that I tried, I put last while I try to improve on everything else. And so, yeah.
In our Dharma sharing, the first session, Alec said, Sister D, I want to ask you a question. Why is it that I've practiced the 5 mindfulness training so diligently and I suffer training? And so I said to him, you know, when we practice, it does not mean that we do not suffer. We just know how to suffer. And trust me, you will suffer a whole lot less because you practice. So Alec has been very happy in this retreat, and he has good friends who support him. And we also learned that true love begins with ourselves, to learn to take care of ourselves, to learn to be our own soulmates, to sit quietly in order to listen to ourselves, to eat quietly, to walk stably, so that we can be there for ourselves before we can really be there for another person. Thank you, Gong, for your deep sharing. Thank you so much. We enjoy and sound the bell. I would like to introduce to you our dear Nghiem. Her parents are here. Where are you? And her dear brother, Hải Dương. Hello, Kang. So mother, father, and brother are here with us. And Nghim's family has been very supportive of our brothers and sisters over many years. They had gone to Plum Village. They took Nghiem to Plum Village actually when you were 10. Yeah. And so at that time, she actually wanted to become a nun. And she actually said to her parents, if I become a nun, it will be the best way that I take care of my brother when you are gone. So, but then, you know, growing up in society, many temptations, you know, for teens, and now she's 22. She's 22 years old now. And so in the beginning of this year, when we went on the Wake Up tour, her parents volunteered to host us, which was quite nerve-wracking for her mother because she loves the brothers and sisters so much. She wants to do her best, but she was afraid she couldn't do that. So she actually went shopping for all the food. She prepared everything. She cut everything ahead of time, the vegetables, put in Ziploc, froze them. And so every day she would take them out and cook them, and the food was delicious and so creative, so beautiful. And so because we stay at her family, we get a chance to get to know more the family on a personal note. And so I would like to ask Nghiem to share with you about how she has gone through the process of taking care of herself, of her self-image. I remember when I saw her at the airport, she came to pick us up, and I hugged her, and I saw such a beautiful young woman in her, inside and outside. But one of the things that struck me was that she wore a lot of makeup. She wore a lot of makeup. And I didn't say anything, but after 3 days or so, I did mention it to her. And just on a very personal note, we share with each other, and I said, when you put so much makeup on, you are giving yourself a message that I'm not good enough the way I am. You're not accepting yourself. So you are very beautiful, my child. So it was not an easy thing to share with a young person, because many young women nowadays, very young teens, they wear makeup. So, but I share that with her. So maybe Nghiem can share a little bit more what you had gone through and your reaction when brothers and sisters said something to you and how you have practiced with that.
Dear Thầy, dear friends, dear family. So it all started when the monastics came to Toronto and we had our Wake Up tour. I remember I was driving home from the public talk that they gave in Toronto, and I was driving Siko Nghiem, Sister D, as well as another Siko Bat Nghiem, in the car. And I was just driving, and then Sister D kind of like scooted up from her chair a little bit, and she was like, "My dear," and I was like, "Yeah, Siko," and she said, "Would you consider wearing less makeup?" I was like, okay. I was like, you know what, that's something I really want to do, but because my skin is very sensitive, I've always felt this need to kind of cover it up. And then Sister D said, your features are beautiful, and the message that you're telling yourself is different when you put on makeup. And I used to put on makeup every day. I tried the best I could when I didn't have to, but when I went out, I usually would. So after she said that, I said, okay, I would consider it. And the very next day, the monastics were leaving, so we were driving them to the airport early morning. So early morning, I didn't wear makeup. I didn't have time. I had to get in the car and drive them out. So we got to the airport, my face bare, and I was standing with one of the monks, and he said to me, I remember this really clearly. I was standing there, and I was looking down, and I saw him looking at me, and then as soon as I looked up, he said, "Nghiem looks good without makeup." And then in my head, I was thinking, okay, they probably planned this or something. Suddenly, it was just two people at once, and both monastics, and right then Sister D turned around, and she said, "That's right, Su-an, this is, it's very good she hears this from a monk, a male." And honestly, when I heard that, it changed my perspective of myself, forever, till now. I stopped wearing makeup ever since, and So I stopped wearing makeup throughout the whole tour that I went with them on. It was like a 2-week tour, and it just felt really nice to see my face. It was like the first time I ever saw my face, and the true me. I remember looking in the mirror, and I saw how beautiful I was. I remember I was telling my cousin, I told her what happened, and then I said, I never thought I was that beautiful. And then she gave me a look. She's like, what are you thinking? And I was like, it's not that I didn't think I was ugly, but I never appreciated my face so much. Like my eyes, my nose, my mouth. Like I just thought I was so beautiful. So that was like a huge transformation for me during that time.
Thank you, dear Nghiem. After the Big Wake Up tour in Toronto, actually, Nghiem went with us to the retreats in Seattle and San Francisco, and she went to the Day of Mindfulness in Los Angeles also, right, Kang? We went, oh no, you in San Francisco, yeah. So she went on to 2 more retreats, and she is now one of the one of the core members of Wake Up Toronto. So they organized that group for other young people to come and practice with them. So it's really a deep happiness to have Nghiem here, and also Tony and Thao. Are you there? Would you raise your hands, Kang? Yeah, Thao is here. Raise your hand, Kang. Yeah. So those are the 3 of the main organizers in the Wake Up Toronto. There's Duck and Andy too, but they couldn't come. Thank you so much, Kang. And so now I would like to introduce to you Nora. Okay. Nora pretty much grew up with us. Years she has been going to retreats, and so she's very blessed to have her mother with us. Her mother is Heather, and Sharia, her father, who are also very dedicated practitioners. And for a while, Nora was having an eating disorder, anorexia, and that was particularly last year was very difficult. When I saw her, she was very, very thin, and she had been hospitalized before that, and her parents were very concerned. But Nora still came to the retreat, and when Thầy was here for the teaching tour last year, we went to Boston and stayed there for a week, and her family, her parents, she and her young sister came to offer food to the monastic sangha, and both of them actually wore this gray robe in Boston, and we were so moved. It was just, we felt so loved by her and her family, and we had a very deep conversation with each other then. And so this year when Nora came back for the retreat, I am just so happy to see how healthy she looks and how healthy her parents look. Because, you know, our happiness is our parents' happiness. So I asked Nora to share with us, because I know many young women have problems with self-image, and, you know, eating disorder is a prevalent issue for many of us. So would you share with us what you have gone through, Kang? And also some of the practices, your own practices, also how your parents have practiced that help you to go through that and to continue to heal yourself at this moment.
My apologies to everyone in the teen group, because you've heard me talk about this nonstop since I got here, so stay awake, please. But sickness has always been, unfortunately, a very big part of my family on both sides. So my mom's father is the second longest living leukemia survivor in the United States, and on my dad's side of the family, there's a genetic mutation called VHL it makes us more susceptible to benign tumors in the brain and the kidneys. And so when I was 11 years old, my dad was admitted into Mass General Hospital because they found a tumor in his brain. And I had to watch him go through getting surgery for the first time. And around that time, my grandma commented, and she said, "You look really pale, you're getting very thin." And I didn't think any of it, because I thought, oh, girls are supposed to be skinny, it's not that big of a deal. But when my parents took me into the doctor's office, my doctor told me that I had some form of anorexia that was anxiety-induced. And so I had to gain 10 pounds by the end of the year, or I would be hospitalized. Yeah. I, to this day, do not like that doctor. Every time my parents bring him up, I flinch. I'm like, oh God, I hate that guy. Like, he ruined my life. And that grudge I've kept with me for 5 years now. And the same thing happened last year when my eating disorder resurfaced, and it was a lot worse than it was the first time. I was getting dizzy spells, and a doctor told me that I too had a brain tumor like my dad did, so I was now a victim of VHL, and I didn't want to accept it because you're not supposed to be 17 with a brain tumor, or 16 with a brain tumor, however old I was. And so 4 months later, when they told me that no, I didn't have a brain tumor, it was all just a misunderstanding, and, you know, doctors will be doctors, mess up what they say, that's when I dropped to 99 pounds. And I stopped eating. The fact that I had VHL, I couldn't control the fact that people control it, but I didn't want to blame anything on myself. And so I stopped eating because that was the one thing that was mine, and it wasn't the best thing to focus on. So I have notes. Sorry. Then when I was told that the dizzy spells I was getting were anxiety-induced, I thought, man, I am so messed up. And then I continued to starve myself because I felt like I didn't deserve to eat, because there was something wrong with me and that I didn't belong here and that no one was going to help me the way that I wanted to be helped. And when I went to another doctor and he told me that I needed to be hospitalized, I broke down for the first time. And I realized that I really did have a serious issue that I'd been pushing to the back of my mind for years. And I fought him because I didn't want to drop out of school so I could lie in a bed in a hospital with girls who were sicker than I was. And so we agreed that I would be admitted into an intensive outpatient program, which means that at 5 o'clock every night I would take the train into Cambridge and eat with other girls who had problems like mine, sit down for 3 hours, talk about our problems, and then I would have to go. And I hated it. I've never been so miserable in my life. It was hard to see other people suffering and hard to accept that I was almost on the same tier as these people. And I really regret not taking advantage of that opportunity to sort of not let myself go, but explain my feelings to people who would actually understand it, because instead I thought, these people are messed up, I don't want to have anything to do with them, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine. And that just exacerbated the problem. And so when I was bumped up over 100 pounds again, but just barely, I dropped out of the program and school was over. And I thought I was fine. I was still pretty upset about the entire endeavor. I was mad at my parents because they had to sit down with me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and watch me eat, and I felt like a child, and that wasn't the way that I wanted to live my life. And then we came to Blue Cliff, and I didn't know Sister D very well. I knew her as the Gollum lady because she always used the word precious, and so anyone watches Lord of the Rings. So I didn't know her very well, and then she took me aside one day and she said to me, she gave me this really long hug she gave me her classic Sister D hug that lasts 5 minutes long, and it should be uncomfortable, but it's not because it's Sister D. And she held me and she said, "Nora, your body is a treasure and you need to treat it with respect." She said, "You are precious to me and your body is precious, and you need to show yourself the same kind of love this kind of love that you need to." And that was the first time that I kind of listened to someone when they offered me help, because I was so, I don't know the word I'm looking for. I was so vulnerable at that time, and she took advantage of that in the best way possible, and those words stuck with me. And so when we got home, I said to my parents, I want to go back into the program and I want to gain the weight back. So they, even though our insurance didn't cover it, which was, sorry, they let me go back into the program that I was a part of, and I greeted my old eating disorder friends with very fragile hugs, and I stayed there for about a month or so. And I would ride the train into Cambridge and then come back, and it was like the most independent time of my life, because I was taking the train, public transportation by myself, and I was doing it for me. And I was trying to make myself better. And after 1 week, when it was just me doing what I had to do, I realized that I could accept people's help. And my weight came back for the most part, and I wasn't as miserable as I used to be. And after Sister D talked to me, I was able to accept other people's advice and accept people's help. And when the monastics came to Boston on their tour, and I saw Sister D, and I saw all of the monks that had left me to go to Plum Village, which is the most selfish thing anyone can do, I realized that I needed to get better, not just for me, but for other people, because my suffering was bringing other people down, and I needed to sort of lift my own spirits up so I could stop being this just kind of drag. And they're too mindful of what you eat. I'm a living example of that. Now I found a balance between being healthy and being, so healthy that it's unhealthy. And now I'm not uncomfortable when I sit down to dinner, and I can have a normal conversation with people about food, and I can talk to my parents again, and I don't think that would have been possible if I hadn't come here last summer. So, Sister D.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Nora, for taking good care of yourself and taking good care of your parents and us inside of you. Here we go. Perhaps Heather can share with us a little bit how you have been practicing in order to support Nora as a parent, and also you also have Maya as a younger sister to Nora, and how to keep the balance, because when we have more than one child in the family, and when one is not doing well, we tend to focus on one child and the other, or the others may feel neglected, or may develop other issues. So how have you been recognized those issues, and how do you use the practice to help you touch that balance?
Dear Ty, dear family, thank you for letting me share our experience with you. I think the first thing to say is, as a parent, you believe that you can kiss all of their boo-boos away. And that works really well for quite some time. And when Nora got sick, I think for a long time I believed that I still had some control over her getting better. And having anorexia in your family is like having another being living in your household. It consumes so much of your life. I don't particularly like to think about food because I also have an issue with food. But when Nora got sick, it became the centerpiece of our family. It really did consume us. Family meals are supposed to be a time when we reconnect with each other and we talk about our day and we share with one another. And for us, it became a time of tremendous stress, a lot of tears, a lot of anger. And as a parent, it just made no sense to me why I couldn't just make my child eat. It seems like the most normal thing, right? Because as parents, we begin by feeding our children. But I couldn't do it. No matter how much I pleaded with her, no matter how much I cried or yelled in many cases, I couldn't make her get better. It was really something that she had to do herself. So I think time, my husband, Shahryar, and I, we didn't accept that. We pushed really hard. And our lives really became nothing more than getting up, going to work, and then the rest of the day. Nora goes to school where I teach, so I literally would get up. He would make sure she had breakfast. I would go to school, I would work, I would meet her at lunch, watch her eat every day, which was incredibly embarrassing for her and very stressful for me. and then she'd have a few hours by herself, and then I would pick her up, drive her into Cambridge, and then one of us would pick her up. I mean, our whole lives revolved around this. And I guess the two things I want to say, the first is that when you have a sick child, it's very easy to neglect the other members of your family. In this case, it was my youngest daughter, Maya. Maya is 4 years younger than Nora, and for probably about 8 months, Maya was kind of on her own. And I think that if we hadn't had the mindfulness practice, I would have seen it as quickly as I did, even though 8 months sounds like a long time. We were sitting at dinner one night, and Maya just pushed her plate away. And I said, honey, do you not like the food? What's wrong? She goes, no, I'm just not going to eat. And she said, if that's the only way that I can get attention from you and Dad, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to eat. And I think at that point we realized that in our effort to try and get Nora better, we had really forgotten that there was another person in our house that was really suffering with us. We just figured she was the well child, She always joked. She's like, I'm the good child, I'm the well child. It's a joke, but, she was always okay. So it's been a really hard lesson to learn how to balance taking care of your child when they're sick, but remembering that there are others who need you just as desperately. So that, I think, is where the practice comes in. We were very lucky when Nora began treatment at the Eating Disorders Clinic. They use a program called the Maudlin Program, which essentially brings a lot of mindfulness and compassion and love into the process of getting your child to eat, because they believe that when your child suffers, the whole family suffers. So we really did have to start living moment by moment. I had to let go, and I had to stop dreaming of that moment when my daughter would be healthy and when everybody would be happy. And we literally went through life for about, 4 months, bite by bite. And when we talk about mindful eating, I don't know if I could have done it if we weren't already grounded in the practice here, because it's exhausting. But as a family, I think once we came together and we approached the illness as a collective body, and we were able to give Nora the space to heal herself, but to be there as her support, to help her literally breathe through the next bite. That's really what it became, was breathing through the next bite, or breathing through the next moment where she's feeling, completely solemn and down. I think the important thing is we were breathing too. And so in a way, we all kind of healed together. And I think it's also important to say that our families, as much as they love us, didn't understand what we were going through. So my parents are both in the medical profession. And my father would say, well, just, how hard is it? Just make her eat. Tell her she has to do it. And my mother would say, well, in our day, people didn't have these problems. You ate what was in front of you. And Shari's family would say, oh, well, you just need to give it time. And, it's not that big of a deal. She's just picky. She's a picky eater. So truly what saved us, and I said this in Dharma discussion a couple of days ago, Blue Cliff and my monastic brothers and sisters, who I really feel are my family, I feel like they saved my family. Because when we came last summer, we were in a really dark place. And Sister Dee and some of the other brothers and sisters just embraced us. I mean, they could tell we needed the support. And they reminded us of the practice. And I think that we needed to know that there was a community of people there that wanted to help us. That really, I think, was the turning point for us. So I think that about covers it.
be there for yourself and your children, and your husband, and for us. Thank you, dear. Sharia, since your family is up here, so like Nora was sharing already, how you have this inherited illness, and that has affected you a lot, but also your children, how they take that on, especially Nora. And would you share with us how you practice, how you use the practice in order to keep that peace, to cultivate inner peace within yourself, and to be present for your children and your wife and many others who are in your life?
Dear Thai, dear sister, and dear family, thank you for the opportunity to share my practice. I hope it's of use, this information. We have a lot of mud. It's good quality mud. You can grow a lot of lotus with this mud. It's both in quantity and quality. It's good mud. So that awareness that it's good mud, it's from the practice. The question is now, how do you how do you grow lotus? It's not easy. One of my favorite examples from the Buddha, as told by Thai, is the story of the example of the arrows. It really just delivers it, like it does, it has those nice ones, it's just right to the point. When you find you're ill, especially with a serious illness with life-threatening consequences, plus long-term, forever. You have this forever. It's not going to go away. That's an arrow, okay? That's nicely lodged in there. One good arrow, yes, right on target. But Thai relays. But then what you do with that information is very crucial. So as the brother was saying yesterday, if you're on autopilot, as I was and am, then there's a second arrow. And the pain from that second arrow is at least 100-fold, if not more. And through the practice, I've been looking at this second arrow a lot. Thank you for that. But I should take a quick detour and talk about last year in the teens Dharma sharing with Sister T for a second. We were doing the beginning anew with the families. I think they're having one this afternoon, so I highly recommend it. Is that correct? And we shared with our family. We had an opportunity to do that. And Sister D later talked to me, and she did something. A third arrow. This one was guilt. So if you don't know there is an arrow, how are you going to be healed? This to deal with this arrow, the pain. I don't know if you're going to, maybe you just make peace with it over time. I don't know how it works, but the breathing helps a lot. The sharing is transformative. You, the family, is a precious gift to be here and have this as a refuge to share, and through that process be transformed. So the intensity of the third one, I would say, has gone down tremendously. I didn't know it was there, but it's gone down through this process. So now let's talk about the second arrow. There is this voice I have. I don't know if you have it too. Sometimes he talks to me. I have a small piece of medical information. We've had a scan, let's say, doctor's visit. I don't know, a headache, something like that. That's his cue, right? The talking starts. And it's, I've noticed, purely negative. You are going to die. This is it. This is the big one. This is the one. You're going to die. You're going to need a lot of surgeries. It's going to hurt. Needles hurt. Surgery, knives, surgeons, hospital, medicine. It's a multimedia experience. So we have the practice. This is what I want to do to practice. I'm learning not to do this, okay? But so don't repeat this. What I want to do, breathing in to the voice. I know this is not me. The voice is not me. Breathing out, shut up. I think the way we're supposed to do it is, there's some hugs involved and like being nice and like, okay, I'll take care of you, I see you, I acknowledge you. I shine the light of mindfulness on you so that through the breathing, mindfulness, you shrink and go away. Yes, yes, yes. The shut up feels really good, but okay. So, but it works. This stuff works. It's real. It's not some theoretical, ethereal thing in the sky, clouds, etc. It's real. It works. It's worked for me. Thank you. So this is the second arrow, and it's a continuous thing. The autopilot is on, always. the information comes in, the autopilot makes the voice go off. Then if I'm in a good place, the breathing starts and much breathing, acknowledgement, then the guilt guy comes back up, okay, breathe, sit, breathe, walk, breathe, sit, breathe, walk, breathe, talk, share, breathe. Practice is like those who practice music, you play the same scale again and again and again, the same notes again and again with mindfulness so that it gets better and you become better at it. And when you need it, when you need that note, it just is there. It's not something that you have to now think about and work for. Which brings me to the first arrow. Well, the arrows are inter-R, if I may say that. You know, I always wanted to say that here. Just find an excuse to say inter-R. The arrows inter-R really are. Two, tremendous effect on the first one. So we know, Heather and I have discovered, I'm a scientific experiment now, that stress is directly correlated with my symptoms. Stress in me grows tumors. Well, what do you do when you don't want to be stressed? You live mindfully. You don't want stress? Practice. And live mindfully and learn to breathe. Another thing that is a subject of my current practice and as others is mindful consumption. And I know we're going to talk about that later tonight, but that's been a tremendous, on all four kinds of nutriments. So, which brings me back to the autopilot. And that third one, equanimity. I can't say the word, but I think I kind of understand what it means. I really strive for that with dealing with this illness. Because it is what it is. My goal is to just be the observer. You know? Yeah, there's stuff I can do about it, you know? But can I just be the observer? Okay. All right. We had a scan? Okay. All right, so, yes, doctor, what do you think we should do? What was next? Okay, we'll try this medicine, we'll try that surgery, maybe we'll do some radiation, whatever, you know. Okay. Because if I'm more than the observer, and I have done this, I know this well, when I connect with this experience and make it seem like that's me, I'm sick. This is me. I'm the sickness. You know, in those 6 months or the year between the scans, when I am okay. When the scan was okay. I don't need any treatment. I'm okay. Then I'm okay. I was the observer. We had a scan. It was okay. All is well. And I can live. But when I'm now, and I'm not, equanimous, then the 6 months are not that okay. You know, I'm suffering during this 6 months. As a result, my family suffers. I then feel guilty, and there we go again. So I breathe, I sit, I walk, I breathe, I talk, I breathe.
As parents, we transmit everything of ourselves to our children. And in whatever that we have not been able to transform, we transmit. And so I see that in our spiritual lives, we have a second chance to transform our difficulties and suffering so that we can transmit to our children those tools, the peace, the non-fear that we are able to cultivate in the spiritual life, because our children will watch us, will learn from us how we deal with our problems with each other, how we deal with our own fragility, our own sickness, and they will be able to take care of themselves much more effectively. So I'm very grateful to the parents who invest so much of your lives in the practice, and you bring your children here so that your children can walk on that path with you, so that you grow up with them and not just grow old. We have one more young person here. I know it's a very difficult time, difficult for him to be up here. Are you less nervous or more nervous, Kang?
I think I'm really nervous, but since everybody said what they wanted to say, I think I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay, you're okay. All right. So Dave also went to the Wake Up retreat in Toronto, and this is also his first time to come to Blue Cliff. And in Dharma sharing, he said, I want to ask you a question. How do you heal yourself when you are violated and you're haunted by that so much? And I asked him what prompted him to ask that question. And so he shared about a very dear friend that he's known for many years who was recently sexually abused, and how that angered him and pained him so much this whole time that it really affected his life. And so I asked Dave to share this because as I work with teens and young adults as well as adults, I see that the issue of sexual abuse is so prevalent in our society. 1 out of 4 women has been sexually abused in her life. And it continues to affect these young men and young women who have gone through this trauma. So it's not something of the past, but they live it in their daily life, and it affects their relationship with themselves, with their partners, their spouses, their children. And I also see a pattern that when a person is sexually abused, his or her children are likely to be abused. And sometimes it takes place even in the 3rd generation, because we have so much pain and we don't know how to take care of it, so we are quite oblivious to situations. Our loved ones in danger of that same cycle of abuse. And so, thank you, Dave, for being here and for sharing your experience and also how you practice as a young man to take care of your own sexual energy so that you can help protect yourself, but also to protect other people.
This man, the thought of him, it angers me so much that it tightens my heart and my fists. I didn't know what to do with this anger. And so literally, her and I spoke privately about the situation. Being violated in such a way can traumatize you so much that it will haunt you for as long as you live. But learning some of the practice, such as so simple like breathing in and breathing out, being aware of where you are today. And just isn't enough to erase that past. When I was taught about the teachings, I assumed that, oh, these are such concrete practices. They'll wash away my problems forever, and I will live on as a happy person. But it's not simple as that. It takes time and patience. You have the time in the whole world to think about the things that happened in the past and to look forward to the future. And so I thought that I need to release this anger, but that is not the healthy way of doing it. For I've nourished the evil seed that resides inside me. I've nourished that, and I now need to accept that and nourish the seed of good inside me. Breathing in and breathing out, and being mindful. And I've realized that I should not blame the man that has done this such impure act, for it is that he used in the wrong direction. You can't blame 100% on him for what he's done. We do not know what he's been through his life. Maybe he was sexually abused when he was young, and so he was misguided. He had no it was meant to be. And I thought my anger started to lower, and I started to understand that this energy that we all possess must be used in such a good way. We all are born with something called love, but we learn to hate and fear. We have to embrace all the things that has happened to us all the support that we get from our parents, to friends, to sisters, to brothers, to monastics, and to the earth. Right now, my friend is living with the monks down in Alberta. Nuns. And so she has practiced for 7 months, and yet she is still haunted by these past memories. But now she must be patient, for 7 months cannot erase such a horrific past. And so Sister D has told me that you must breathe in and breathe out. You must be aware of what's happened, and you have to accept it and build off of that to become a better person.
Mindful consumption.
So to start off, the mindful consumption. When we play such violent video games and such, like R-rated games or movies or any sorts of consumption, we think, oh, this is not going to affect me. I wouldn't do these things. No, that's just ridiculous. But some of that consumption still you consume inside you. You just don't know it. It's the choice whether you use that consumption or just let it flow through you. Women are most susceptible to being raped, but little did we cast aside that men also get sexually abused. And so we cannot disregard that. We have to take care of both genders. We consume so much that we think it's so little, but yet through another person's perspective, it is so much. And so we have to control all of the consumption that we see, hear, smell, and we just have to control it through mindful breathing and through the practices that we have been taught through these past few days, months, even years. Says Sister D has been a nun for 14 years, which is mind-blowing that she can sit so peacefully and eat so mindfully. And that is something that we all have to practice. We have to act on good, accept the bads, and just build off from it. So much.
So when I asked Dave about his experience, and he said he really wanted to have this man banned from the earth, and I asked him, "Do you know who he is?" He said, "No." "Do you know who he is?" "No." And I said, "He's you. He's each one of us. And when I work with teenagers, I always want to stress that to them, to help them realize that when we think of sexual abusers, we think they are some evil people. But when you ask, closer questions, when you examine more closely, you realize they are our fathers, sometimes our mothers, they are our uncles, cousins, neighbors, friends of our parents, sometimes even boyfriends, husbands. And so it's so important when we recognize this, how we practice mindfulness much through all these movies, these images that now are so readily available to our young people. And also to take that proactive approach, that responsibility to take care of our own sexual energy so that we don't find ourselves, impose ourselves on other people. Working with people also. I see that when the young people, especially children, when they are touched inappropriately or abused, they are very afraid to say anything to their parents or to their adults. And sometimes when they say it, the parents actually say, "How can you make up things like that? How can you say such evil things?" And that just shut them up. So I ask that parents, health professionals, to be really aware of this, to be so observant. If your child is happy, is normal, suddenly you find your child being withdrawn, scared, frightened in front of somebody or about certain situation, please look deeply into that and think of this as one of the possibilities. Is somebody doing harm to my child? Is something going on that I'm not aware of? And if a child ever tells you something like that, please don't doubt the children. Children never make up things like that, but have to look into it and get help. And the most important thing with children that as monastics we learn to do is to help them to be aware of their own bodies. Breathing in, and I'm aware that I have a body. Breathing out, my body is very precious. Hello, dear body, I know you are there and I'm so thankful. If children learn to be more aware of their body, how they feel, then when something happens, they know right away. Like I asked some children to breathe mindfully and hold each other's hands. And I asked, how does that make you feel? And they actually said, I feel happy. I feel safe. And so we teach them, if somebody touches you and you don't feel happy, you don't feel safe, you know that person has no right to do that. And you find every way to get out of that situation and inform your parents, inform the adult right away. And you come back to your breath and hold your body and say, I love you so. I'm sorry that happened to you. I find a way to protect you. I ask for help to protect you. So children, if they are taught in that way, they learn to love their body, to take care of their body, and where there's a wound, even a cut, a sickness, or something inappropriate done to them, they know to come back and care for themselves and ask for appropriate help. So I know these sharings can be very difficult, but they are very real. And I'm so grateful to to my young brothers and sisters, and also to the two parents who are here to share with you about their experiences. And I'm grateful that you are here, investing in this spiritual life for yourselves and for your families, but also for the society. So we are very blessed to have each other. Let us sit up beautifully, stably, and touch deeply this moment that we have each other, that we have a path, and that our children are learning to heal themselves, to take good care of themselves. And that is that's a deep happiness. Let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell together. Please take a moment